Welcome to the Seniors Flourish podcast, where it's all about helping occupational therapy practitioners working with older adults be the best they can be. And now your host, Mandy Chamberlain.
Hi there, welcome to the Seniors Flourish podcast. This is Mandy Chamberlain, occupational therapist and your host, here to talk about everything occupational therapy and working with older adults. So today's topic is 3 reasons why evidence-based practice is important. This list is not all-inclusive, but, I wanted to kind of go over evidence-based practice because it's kind of like a buzzword. We all know that we should, quote, do it. But is it easier said than done? So I kind of wanted to give some reasons why it doesn't have to be hard and why and how we can kind of integrate that into our practice to make us the best occupational therapy practitioners we can be. So, let's just first of all define what is evidence-based practice. Per the AOTA website, I'm going to just kind of quote it from there. Quote, the evidence-based practice, or EBP, is based on the integration of critically appraised research results with the clinical expertise and the client's preferences, beliefs, and values. I love that definition, and it's obviously very applicable to occupational therapy practitioners, but I think sometimes what people kind of think of when you think of evidence-based practice, you think of just journal articles and research. But that's actually not quite true. It's one part of what evidence-based practice really is. So making sure that, of course, we're using good research results, but also what have we experienced in our own clinical practice? And then what are the client's needs? So it's kind of like this trifecta effect of using, the research, the clinical expertise, and the client's needs, and kind of merging it all together to make this wonderful little evidence-based practice bubble in the middle. So I think that's just something really important that we kind of need to keep in mind. I kind of want to just go back to 2003, when I graduated with my master's in occupational therapy from the University of North Dakota. Woo, woo, woo. I kind of wanted to do a fist pump, but I kind of resisted. But anyway, getting out of school, you learn evidence-based practice. You learn how to read the research and, criticize it, find what's good, what's bad. How do you integrate that into your practice? And you feel like that's just so, I guess, quote, normal. And I think it probably is for some certain facilities where, they really focus on, lunch and learns, or, having a journal club at your facility, or working in academics where you use a lot of that clinical research to support education. And so you just kind of, I know I felt like when I got to school, that's just normal. That's what everybody does and uses. And as time goes on, I think, that part of being a clinician, for some people, I'm just using my own experience, but kind of, fades. I've always been one to kind of love digging through AJOT and reading on some things that are interesting, but kind of going through it and not really getting a good analysis of it and really digging into it and seeing exactly how it applies. I might just read the title, read the abstract, and just be like, oh, that's really interesting, or that would be really great to kind of dig into a little bit more, but there was no formality. And so how did I get to this point now in my life, in my career, 14 years later, that I'm like, this is so important? And I think it was an evolution of a lot of things. I was practicing full time for many years. I went to part time after I had my daughter, and then I started going PRN when I had my twin boys. And then I started really craving some, honestly, intellectual stimulation and adult socialization and using my brain. And that's actually how I kind of started Seniors Flourish in the first place, which has brought me to this wonderful place in my career where I can do my clinical expertise and also do some mentorship and, things through my website, which has been amazing. I love it. But I felt like I was kind of at a place where I just felt I needed that. And I started digging in more critically. And then I really realized how much I missed that in an academic setting. Cause I don't have any kind of journal club or anything in my work setting. So it was just kind of like this aha moment for me, good, bad, or otherwise. I just felt like, I really need to be doing this, reading more and learning more and kind of applying that research to my clinical practice. And then I guess what I started kind of looking at is, why is it important? We all know it's quote important, but really, why is it? So I'm going to go through 3 reasons why, I think it's important. And, I have my own resources. I tried to find my own evidence-based practice or, journal articles and things like that to back up this podcast. So I'm using it even in podcasts. I'm using it on my website. I'm using it in my practice, and the benefits are just really great. So I really wanted to share with you and challenge you to use more evidence-based practice strategies in your own practice. So number 1, we want to provide interventions that work. Obvious. I probably say this all the time. This is obvious, but it is obvious. Of course we want to provide interventions that work. And I think sometimes when you are going along and working and you have had your education, you have a lot of clinical experience, which really counts for a lot. And you have your coworkers that you work with. And sometimes people just don't completely dig into what's new. What's the newest research out there? How can I improve? Because we do want to provide the best treatment to get the best outcomes for our patients, because obviously our ultimate goal is to help our patients improve their quality of life and be as independent as possible. So, using evidence-based practice and using the research, your own clinical expertise and what the client's, needs are, we can provide the best treatment and provide the best outcomes. Because sometimes things that, we were taught years ago may not be the best ways to do it currently. So not necessarily are all those things, debunked and saying that doesn't work anymore, because you have your clinical experience and saying well, it kind of does, or I know it does, or I know that to be true, but maybe there's something better. Maybe there's more current research that we can use to get the best outcomes, and also it makes us accountable. It improves our patient safety. It ensures our quality of care. It makes us prove and show that we are a profession that is valuable to our patients and valuable to the healthcare team. So, I just really feel that that's such an important part of that. And, staying current, of course, we can't read everything. That would be ridiculous. But knowing what's going on in the research world just kind of makes you more aware and hyper vigilant and challenging you to kind of be my way is maybe not always the best way. And how can I use the research to improve our outcomes? So that's the first one. Wanting to provide interventions that work. Number 2, if we like it or not, insurance companies and government payment systems want to make sure that they're paying for what works, and that we are getting the outcomes for our patients, and that it's supported by research. Why are they going to pay for us to treat and do something if there's no backing? This is where I really believe in research. I know that is not my strength, but I also want to fully support the people that do perform research and making sure that we're utilizing that to show our value. This is how we can provide documentation and research articles to support treatments. If payments denied, if, you have a payment that the insurance company or, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever system you're in, they don't want to pay for it. It could be one that we're not documenting appropriately. But also sometimes if it's something that they're not familiar with, they can just deny it. And if you can have the research articles with your documentation to show that, yes, this is supported and that this is good research and it supports what I'm doing with my patient, you can have that reversed. So just something to kind of keep in mind. I've used research to submit with denials before. And I absolutely believe that helps. Research definitely trumps anything that I'm going to say. That I say, oh, I know this works, but they want the clinical background or research to support it, which I get it. They're the ones paying for it. Because ultimately it reduces the cost for the payer. I mean, like if we are providing those best treatments with the best interventions that work, and getting best outcomes, in the long run, you're going to ultimately reduce those costs. So, they want to make sure that they are paying for something that is medically necessary and that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. It also just, increases that transparency and, says like, yes, this is what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. And that OT does have distinct value. I say that probably a lot in these podcasts, but I really truly believe that. And it's part of our job to really prove that to our patients, to the community, to, the payers, the government payer systems or the insurance companies. And, just we are part of the team and we make a huge impact in our patients' lives. And we know that and we just need to prove it. And that's just the way it goes. So just making sure that we are providing that background for those payers and payment systems. And then the last one I'm going to just talk about on this podcast today is just like basically a self-serving reason. Like, why else is evidence-based practice important? In addition to, I'm sure people can think of 100 different other reasons to justify, but I just really feel like when we learn something new, it really ignites a passion and kind of rejuvenates the reason why we go into occupational therapy as a profession in the first place. It's like, that feeling you get when you go to a course and you get all these new ideas and you're like, oh my gosh, I can totally try this in the clinic. I can think of this patient I could try it on, or this patient I could try it on, or, oh, I wish I would have done that with this patient I had in the past. And it almost makes you want to like call someone up and be like, oh, I want to try something new. Like I get that excitement when I learn something new and a technique that is, clinically proven to increase patient results. And I, want to do as much as I can and be the best clinician that I can be. And it's trial and error. Like you have those patients that, do magically, and you're just like so proud of them and their hard work, and you feel like you've done everything you can do, and it's a great team effort. And so I really feel like, using that evidence, if you use the evidence-based practice, you kind of can rejuvenate your clinical practice a bit more. You're learning something new. And, just, it's just a really neat way to kind of, give that spark back to the everyday, because, there's lots of challenges in every setting that we work in. And so like, it's really fun to learn something new is kind of, I guess, my take on it. So, and this is one of the reasons why I included a journal club in the Learning Lab, which is the membership site over at seniorsflourish.com, and the reason why I did that is because like I was saying earlier, is that I don't have an outlet or a journal club at my work environment, or, I guess, quote, a reason to read journal articles besides for my own personal growth and development. It's really neat to be able to share that with someone else or another group of people that are like-minded and, kind of challenge you. Let it be good research or bad research, like honestly, just reading research. Because like I was saying earlier, sometimes I think we just kind of like read a title, read an abstract, kind of get some basic information and be like, oh, that's great. I was at a gathering, I guess I will say, for, OTs, and they were talking about some new treatment techniques that someone was having some good results with. And we were just kind of just chit-chatting about it. And I was just saying like, hey, is there any, do you have any research on that? And, the research I found on it, because it just kind of intrigued me because I had never heard of it before. And it's not that great of research. I'm not saying you can't have some good clinical outcomes, because sometimes you're not just strictly using one strategy and one theory base to treat a patient. But like, there's good research out there, there's bad research out there, but I think even in a way, being able to critically analyze the material is almost just as important as reading good. Because if you honestly read all positive outcomes, like, it doesn't necessarily challenge you in the way that you could make an impact in your practice. Sometimes you need to read that certain theories are kind of being challenged, or you're like, that research is not even valid. And so, like, why are people using it? And so it really strengthens for me, it strengthens my practice. And it keeps me current. Sees what's going on, in the field of research. It doesn't even have to be like occupational science or occupational therapy based. You can obviously use, research from all sorts of, areas that we utilize, neurology and, there's the journal of stroke. And I mean, there's just like so many different areas that we can gather information that's very applicable to being an occupational therapy practitioner. And we can still use that research, and apply it to our own setting within our own profession. So I guess like a couple other things that I think people really question is like, well, how do I really do this? Just read an article and just apply it. Like, it sounds so easy. And when you're out of practice, like if you haven't been in, like I was saying, an academic setting, or, you have those opportunities at work, you kind of just you get out of practice, and you have to kind of be revived and like, actually, how do you do this? Because like I said, it's not just reading a research article. It's, using your clinical experience combined with what the client needs. And it's a whole system. So a couple things to think about when you're saying like, okay, maybe I should be applying evidence-based practice a little bit better into my daily treatment sessions. So, you start out by just asking a clinical question. Something that you kind of wondered, like, is this taping method for a sublux shoulder, is it the best way I can do this? Like, I'm only having medium, moderate results. My patients are saying it feels good, but I'm not feeling like it's providing the stability or whatever I'm looking for. So you're asking that clinical question. Okay. And then acquire the best evidence possible. Get it, do some research, read your journal articles, dig around the internet. There's lots of options. And, maybe you pay for an article that you find that you think this would be very applicable, or maybe you, subscribe to a journal like the American Journal of Occupational Therapy, AJOT, where they have a lot of that research, easily accessible to you. But there's also a lot of free open access resources out there that you just have to dig around for. So from there, okay, ask the clinical question, get or acquire the best evidence possible, and then, analyze the evidence. Make sure it's applicable to the population that you are looking for and the question asked. So if you look at the example I said about like a sublux shoulder taping method of, let's say you're going to be using like a mobilization tape, or you're looking for kinesio tape or something like that, like taping, making sure that it's for the geriatric population, if that's who you're working for. And it's really answering the question that you asked. It's not like, okay, they're doing research on use of a sling, because that's kind of not exactly what you're looking for. So just really making sure that you are analyzing it, and getting that information that you need to answer your clinical question. And then apply the evidence. Say they are looking up, like I said, the taping method. They're like, yes, using mobilization tape is, quote, more effective than kinesio tape. I'm totally just making this up, but you get the idea. And why? And then how can you apply that to your clinical setting? I say like, okay, they're saying mobilization tape is better. This is the method. I'm going to try it on this patient. I feel comfortable with the application. The patient's up for it. We've tried X, Y, and Z before. It hasn't been very successful. The evidence show that this could be a positive result. Let's try it. And then from there, you're assessing your performance. I mean, did it combine everything you needed? Did it take your clinical experience and expertise, take the research that you found that was applicable to the population and the question that you were trying to figure out, and then like the client's needs? Did that all come together as you had hoped it to be, or hoped? And then like, was it a positive outcome? Why or why not? And then that helps you make a decision on trying it again with another patient. You could be like, well, the evidence shows that this is positive. I had a moderate result, but that doesn't necessarily mean each client can't be different. So it's just like trying to use that and analyze the research and applying it. So ask the clinical question, acquire the best evidence that you can, critically analyze the evidence, apply the evidence, and then, assess the performance and say, was it applicable? Did it work for me? Why or why not? And so, I mean, those are things that, really just being cognizant of those steps, and using some of those, the research out there that's available, to try new things and be current, and really I just challenge everyone to really be the best occupational therapy practitioner you can be. And like, this is such a neat way to do that, because we're staying current, we're staying applicable, we're proving that we have distinct value, we're proving to the payment systems that we're doing what we should be doing, thus in the long run reducing costs, and then like igniting that fire for you as a clinician, that I'm doing the right thing and I'm getting great results. And I'm not just saying like this technique doesn't work, but there's a reason why it does or does not. So I just challenge everyone to, get out there and find some evidence and try something new. You may find that it's actually a little more fun than you think it should be. So, to make things kind of easy for you, I made a quick guide to free evidence-based resources for occupational therapy practitioners, just like a one-sheet guide that you can, I shouldn't say all, like a lot of free places to get some open access journal articles that you can read and review for your practice. So you could integrate some of this in evidence-based practice in your sessions, tomorrow. So if you head over to seniorsflourish.com/podcast evidence, I'll have that as a resource where you can just click on it and print it off, and you can find all the different places where you can find open access journals, if you're looking for something free. And I'll also have it in the show notes and the resources I found for why evidence-based practice is really just an important part of being on the healthcare team. And it really actually makes me excited. And I kind of have that little bit of research nerd in me. I can research something to death, but like I get excited about not only finding those things that work for my patients, but striving to be the best I can be. And like, I am not perfect by any means, but like I just always am striving and trying to figure out what is good, what's not, what works, what doesn't. And just, it also really ignites me as a therapist to kind of like learn something new. Especially in those days when you just feel beaten down, when you feel like nothing you're doing is making a difference. And then there's so much, it's just the payment systems and or the coworkers or the facility you're working in. And there's so many things that drown out like the reason why we went into this profession in the first place. So, try it and just see how it works for you. So like I said, head over to seniorsflourish.com /podcast evidence. and find that quick guide to free evidence-based resources for occupational therapy practitioners. So thank you everyone for listening, and have a great day.
If you are an occupational therapy practitioner that enjoyed today's podcast, I invite you to check out the Learning Lab at seniorsflourish.com/Learning Lab. The Learning Lab is the essential resource for OT practitioners working with older adults looking for more treatment ideas, support, and resources to be the best they can be. So whether you're struggling to find evidence-based treatment ideas, you don't have time to research for resources or patient diagnoses, or are even looking for ways to earn more professional development units, then the Learning Lab can help you become a more effective and efficient practitioner. With weekly educational videos, a huge resource and handout list, a bi-monthly journal club where you can earn professional development units, a supportive community forum, and even some exclusive member-only bonuses, the Learning Lab is the perfect place to help you be the best OT practitioner you can be. It's like having your own OT help desk. So check it out at seniorsflourish.com/Learning Lab. Thanks for listening. This podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Senior Rehab Project at seniorrehabproject.com.